fake fitness. Stay tuned on my video right here on Social Goals.
Say one thing before we start the show too. You're not having a good time. If you're not having a good time, you're wasting your time. You say that every night.
Situationships and all things. Thank you so much.
Daddy Yum Yum, 265 gallons of pure milk chocolate. And you are watching the Social Goals.
Welcome to Love Never Fails. I'm your host, the coach, Corey Bear, and this is my co-host, Audrey. And we are here with Mr. Craig Lee and the wonderful Danny of Danny Appleseed. In today's topic, we're talking dating in this culture, spiritual and religion. Does it have a place in the culture? So, we're going to start this conversation. Actually, I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. Starting with the coach.
With the therapist.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at I got a lot going right now. I'm sorry. This is our first episode.
So I am Audrey Musgrove. I am referred to as a therapist. I'm licensed here in the state of Louisiana and have been practicing for about 9 years.
Okay. Beautiful ladies first.
Okay, thank you. I'm Danny with Danny Appleseed. I own an online apothecary. I've been studying herbalism for over 10 years now. I've healed a lot of people and helped them to conceive.
And I am Craig Lee, aka Troublemaker, here in the city of Shreveport. I cause trouble for Negroes in the establishment. And I am, amongst many other things, CEO, owner of Creole Soul Louisiana Meat Pies, chairman of Get Up Incorporated, and co-founder of Dads on Duty, and empowerment coach, trainer, and everything else.
And everything in between. Great mentor, great guy. Tonight we're going to dive into this conversation. Me and the therapist was having a great conversation before coming here about our special guest and their different perspective on life. I love Mr. Craig Lee. We always have great conversations. And I've recently become familiar with Miss Danny here. So I'm going to start off with Miss Danny. How long have you been here in Shreveport?
It's been about 10 years now. Yeah, a little longer than that, but I moved to Baton Rouge and then I came back. Yeah.
I was intrigued. You was telling me a little bit about healing yourself from cancer, I think.
I had follicular carcinoma. It's a form of throat cancer.
Wow.
And so I was able to heal myself with my herbal supplement. It's a multi-mineral supplement for overall health and wellness.
Wow.
So I fast, and I took it for about 30 days and went back. And so I only had to get like part of it removed, but
Wow.
I'm cancer free.
Wow.
Okay.
No chemo, no radiation.
No.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
not on any hormonal or
Wow.
replacement medications either.
How long ago was your surgery?
Like, it was recent, like 3 years ago.
So what are your views on love and dating in this 2024?
It could be extremely challenging because I feel like true love is all about unconditional acceptance, being open-minded, accepting a person's flaws, and everything. A lot of people, especially the younger generation, they tend to suffer from parasitic behaviors. So they feel like whatever they friends do in a relationship, if it's bad, and they'll do it too, and it just causes even more friction. People allow outsiders to interfere, and I mean, me, I've just always been open-minded and free-spirited, so I've always been able to accept someone, like, without judgment and work with them and actually practice active listening, you know, get a feel for who they are and everything and just go from there. But I feel like true love is based upon unconditional support, trust, have to be committed. It's something that shouldn't be taken lightly at all.
Are you married right now, single, dating?
I'm dating. I recently got back with my son's father.
Congratulations.
Love never fails. Right.
Yeah.
Good Corby saying that. That's good though. That's great.
So, Mr. Lee,
Yes, sir.
been back in Shreveport since 1994.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about you. Outside of the troublemaker, what we see every day, what we know of Mr. Craig Lee, tell us about the love experience since being back.
Well, I'm a native of Shreveport. 1985 graduate of Fairport High School. 89 graduate of Xavier University, BS in Marketing Economics, and spent several years in corporate America working with some of the largest firms in the world. Came back here as a pharmaceutical sales rep in '94 and left corporate in 1995. And for the past 29 years, I've worked as a corporate grassroots empowerment revolutionary, what I call a cultural social entrepreneur, and laying the foundation to create a prototype for Shreveport and Caddo to become a black empowerment paradigm shift for our people on an international basis. And I didn't know that it would be such a difficult nut to crack, but Shreveport has been, I've learned to actually love my hometown.
Right.
Because when I left here in 1985, I wasn't looking to come back to Shreveport, like many people. And I was actually, Corey, to be honest, I was on my way back to Atlanta after I decided I was going to resign from Astra Pharmaceuticals. I was going back to ATL because I'm like, I can't get with Shreveport.
Right.
And part of it was the connection with the opposite sex on a more enlightened perspective. Like Shreveport has a lot of attractive sisters, but in terms of that connection on a spiritual and cultural level, that just wasn't in the cards here. So that was one of the things. So I was on my way back to ATL, and it was actually a murder that happened. A guy who I was a big brother to coming up in Queensboro murdered a guy based on this issue that we were talking about today, the illusion of love. And this young lady was breaking up with him, and he went to abuse her. Her brother jumped in to help, and he killed the guy. And that's when I was like, yo, how did this guy become a killer? And that's when I started asking the question, Creator, why are these brothers and sisters committing all of these murders and heinous offenses? And that's when the creator was like, look around your community and tell me, what don't you see? And it was like, that's when the 6 pillars of empowerment came to me. No spirituality, no right culture, no education, no economic development, no socioeconomics, and no political power. And it was really at that moment that the creator was like, look, I raised you in Shreveport so you would have a solid foundation, took you to Xavier University so you would get your education, exposed you in corporate America so you would understand capitalism and this whole dynamic. Not for you to be in New Orleans, Atlanta, Birmingham, Nashville, Boston, all these places that you live, but for you to come back to the city of Shreveport and help your people. And that's when I left corporate and began doing this work. And part of this work centers around relationships, especially now that I'm co-founder of Dads on Duty. A lot of the things the challenges that we face is a byproduct of this topic that we're discussing today, which the perception of love carries over into male and female, ending up having sex, having children, and now both entities, or at least one entity, typically the male, not being accountable and responsible within that realm, and the female having made the decision as to who she's impregnated by, now being left with the responsibility of taking care of these children, typically by herself. And it creates a major situation for our community.
Right. Miss Dan, Miss Dan. Following up with Mr. Lee, do you think love and relationships have a detrimental part in the things that are going on in our community right now, the lack of true commitment and love?
Yeah, I do. A lot of times it could be like he was talking about, like as far as with family and everything, not doing your research about, who you're with, especially DNA plays a huge
Exactly.
part scientifically.
Huge.
It's something that's pretty much a biological makeup. However the father is, that's how the kid is gonna become, and it can become really detrimental to your mental health because, for example, my son, he is mildly autistic, and you can't tell now because I work with him, but he's mildly autistic and he used to rock, and recently it's so crazy, his dad just came home. He was away for 10 years, and he came home, and I guess just that bond, and he was able to work with him. He just stopped the rocking, but he literally rocked for 10 years.
Wow.
Like it was nonstop.
Wow.
Like between 12 and 4 in the a.m. it's guaranteed he's gonna rock. And not knowing while I was pregnant, well, I was stressing too. Then
Yeah.
I also did my research. So autism can come from things in your environment and what you consume.
Oh, yeah.
So I really don't know exactly where he got it from, but my spouse in the past, he has had anger issues
Yeah.
and stuff. So emotionally, sometimes my son will lash out, not knowing how to relay these emotions that he's feeling verbally. I mean, he's feeling emotionally. He couldn't verbalize it.
Right.
So it was extremely challenging for me. I mean, because I really had to work with him. But now, you couldn't even tell. He actually suffers from, he doesn't have the full autism spectrum disorder. He suffers from echolalia. It's characteristics of autism. So he has the high sensory issues. He don't like noise or sound, But yeah, I mean, it can be stressful,
You say his father came back after 10 years. Do you think that rebuilding their relationship, you and him, has a strong factor in him he's getting rid of the rocking and the other things?
I think by me and his dad reconciling, it kind of brought a sense of peace and comfort.
Hmm.
Yeah, to him.
Are you all trying to raise them in the same household?
Household, yeah.
That's good.
Or-
Well, like on these similar topics, in therapy we talk about the concepts of nature and nurture,
Yeah.
right? And in some instances, when you are out dating, you weren't taught to research.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
True.
so we gotta start there.
Yeah.
We can bash all day today, but
Yeah.
Right.
if a person doesn't know, they don't know.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
hopefully, for the purposes of today, people who are listening will teach their children how to date, how to research. But
Yeah.
all of us sitting here,
Yeah.
we're at different, generational stages. But did you get a lesson on how to date when you were young?
Yeah, no.
Absolutely
Nobody-
not.
yeah, nobody gets
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people do
It's
now,
yeah.
but I didn't.
Yeah,
Okay, and I
me
also grew up in a single parent home.
Mhm.
Okay, so what we're seeing in society is what has been happening over and over and over again. Not to be critical, saying monkey see, monkey do, but we monitor modeling, and whatever
Mhm.
we see, that's what we do, and that's what you were speaking of
Yeah,
with the
the-
kids.
Yeah.
What they see their
Yeah.
friends do,
Yeah.
then they do, regardless of
Right.
if it was heinous or not.
Right.
Right? It becomes a fad.
Right.
Okay, so with nature versus nurture, you're talking about you end up conceiving with a person, you do not know their background,
Mhm.
and you'll see nature rise, right? But coming back to your experience, when you were talking about your son and when his father returned, the nurturing that you had already done, the nurturing that he came in to do, and even if both of you guys don't know where the behaviors came from,
Mm-hmm.
you know your child. There's a biological draw
Mhm.
to your child. I don't have children myself, but I do help a lot of people with children. I see Corey with his daughter. And it's very interesting that something that can present a totally different way, he already knows. And my mom used to say, I know what you're thinking before you're thinking, and I know that's just the African American thing, but that is true. So we actually need both because it would work ideally 100% if we were able to run a background.
Mhm.
But we will also possibly fall to judge people too.
Well,
That's true.
well, I'll say this. When I talk about vetting, I'm not talking about doing any type of CIA background check. I'm talking about just solid questions.
Right.
And I always put this on the female, and a lot of my female colleagues would say, well, why don't you focus on the dude? It's real simple, because you all are the ones who make the decision as to who comes into your space. You'll hear, although he's deceased now, Kevin Samuels, he would always say females or women control the access to sex. And that's true. So since the female controls, or woman controls the access to sex, it's more incumbent on her to elevate her thinking in order for her to make the right decision as to who she gets involved with. And it's real simple in terms of those 6 pillars of empowerment: the spirituality, the right culture, the education, the economics, the socioeconomics, and the politics. So in order for her to ask the right questions, versus just asking, what's your favorite damn food? Like, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? What's your mama name? And then now you get back with your friend girl and it's like, girl, I know everything about him. Girl, his mama name Millie. He like Italian food. Don't know a damn thing about the dude, right?
Right.
These are superficial things. And so I remember several years ago, a female was interested in me, and before we went out to lunch, she had seen me on television, and she said, well, I'm not involved in politics like you. So I'm thinking, okay, well, she probably don't mobilize, organize, and all that kind of stuff. So we go out, and after we had a good lunch, she brought her daughter with her. And so afterwards, I called her back to tell her it was a cool lunch. And I made a statement about her teaching her daughter finance like you would teach her when you go in a voting booth. And this chick said, I don't vote. I said, whoa. She said, I told you I'm not involved in politics. I said, yeah, you said you're not involved in politics like me, like I'm like involved in politics. She said, well, I don't vote. My mama didn't vote, my dad didn't vote. So what do you think happened after that call? You goddamn
But
right.
I think also, as breaking generational curses, us while we raising our children, we need to really work on communication, like with our kids, really sit down and like talk to our kids and let them know what to look for in a mate, and make them aware of their self-love, self-care, their self-worth, because with my parents, I've had these conversations with my dad. I've never had them type of conversations with my mom. So it was like growing up, the guy that showed me the most love and loyalty was who I got with, So I think that's very important too, because in certain cultures, like in certain like African cultures or whatever, like with their families and the daughter is getting ready to marry, if the man doesn't even have the same religious beliefs or in they tribe,
Yeah, that
they
ain't gonna
probably
happen.
can't.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
That
It
leads me
happens
to
a lot.
Yeah.
My next question. Mr. Lee.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important for us to teach our kids the right culture and the proper perspective of love? With that being said, you sent me earlier. You sent me a list of 16 things.
20.
20. Okay, I got to 16. I ain't get all.
Oh, my bad.
That's all right.
20 of them.
It's 20 of them. And we were talking right before we came on. I don't know if the ladies heard.
And you had one of them on there, commitment.
Right. We were talking before we came on the air. And he said it was okay about we discussed.
Yeah.
You said you were dating a lady.
Yeah.
And you told her it was easier to date you.
That's right.
Because when she got with you as a wife,
Ooh.
she was on the clock.
On the clock. Tick, 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 tick.
A lot of my homeboys say, Corey, you soft boy, you tell me. Cool, I'm gonna take that right now because I really wanna know. Because I get hit with this all the time. Corey, you double minded, you two sided, that's not right. It's not like that you see it one way. I thought that was okay for a man to have a different kind of standard. So what you saying it's on the clock. Break down what on the clock and being loved by Craig Lee looks like these 20 words.
So, before I jumped the broom in my first marriage in 2004, I'd had 15 marriage proposals. And I would tell this to females when they would meet me. And they were like, wait, let me get straight. A female or a woman asks you to marry them? I said, hell yeah. And they were like, I never ask a dude to marry me. I said, well, man, you ain't gonna never have no issue. Because it ain't gonna come up for me.
Right.
Because unless the Creator tells me who I'm supposed to be with, you ain't got to worry about me bringing that up. And so what I learned in the process initially, and I used to ask my partners when I found out they were be married, I'd be like, so how's the marriage going? And they probably didn't get divorced. And I said, well, what happened? And so you'll find out when you get married. And I'm like, why you can't tell me now so I don't mess up? And literally, it is something that you have to learn. And in my first marriage, which my first wife was 9 years older, good sister, beautiful sister, but she didn't want to elevate on that spiritual, cultural, educational, economic, social, and political level where she would be able to tap in to her purpose. See, for me, it's not about the female being a cheer squad for me. I need her to become the best element of what she's supposed to become because I mastered the Negro female. I know her better than she knows herself. What I haven't mastered is the black woman because that is a unique commodity. And so if the Negro female doesn't elevate to black woman, we're at a loss. So that's what I've sought. So I needed her to become that entity. What I found, Corey, in that first marriage was that no matter how much you love someone, and these 20 components, and let me just call them out so people will see, because I believe that love is an action word I believe it's a verb. So I say that love is truth, honesty, commitment, dedication, growth, passion, sacrifice, persistence, present, provide, nurture, teach, encourage, cultivate, discipline, cherish, compassion, understand, listen, protect. Okay? So I believe all of those things are part of it. And I also say there are probably a lot more components that go in. But what I do know is that love is not a feeling, because feelings change just like the weather. And so I learned in that first situation that no matter how much you love someone, you can't force them to now elevate. It's really up to them. And so I didn't want to do it again. And so in comes the second one. Okay. In comes the second one, and we broke up about 50 times while we were dating. So I knew you were not going to elevate. But she was like, Craig, if you just trust me, I'm going to change. No, you're not. Trust me. If I marry you, you're on the clock. Meaning, I'm not going to play around with you like I have for these years while we've been dating. If we're now married, you will elevate or else. And needless to say, she wasn't willing to do that. And I was ready to divorce her after a month. Okay. But we stayed together for a year. But now we are better connected because my focus was on her elevating spiritually, culturally, educationally, economically, socially, and politically. What she was focused on was having a wedding, because she thought the wedding was marriage. And the wedding is just pomp and circumstance. The marriage is the institution of all of these things, plus these others. And what I've come to find, most people are not willing to be dedicated to doing that.
Great.
How long was that first marriage?
Connected in '02, we ended, I would say, '07, formally 2013. By white man standards, '04 to 2013. By spiritual standards, from '02 to '07. The disconnect happened in '07. We went through Hurricane Katrina. That was a big thing. And that was some things that she didn't want to roll with, and she ended up getting rescued. And yeah, not following her damn husband. She ended up getting rescued and almost dying. And so that became the complete downfall. But yeah, by white man standards, 2004 to 2013, 9 years. But the connection was over in 2007.
Okay. You used the word creator, and me and Danny was talking about the aspect of religion and the difference in spirituality.
Yeah.
Do you all find it hard to date someone that walks the Bible thumper, with Christianity?
Can't.
How about you? You can't have it. Can't have it. Is it in this modern time? Is it hard to find someone that is open to the perspective that you all have?
Yeah, because society has done such a great job of indoctrinating the mind. And now I use Christian scripture in order to validate various points with people who are caught up in the religiosity. And I love to go to the 31st book of Proverbs, since so many females like to say, I'm a Proverbs 31. I'm a Proverbs 31. And what they don't know, in the first 9 verses of the 31st book of Proverbs, these are instructions that's being given to a male who's elevated into manhood, who's now elevated into kinghood. And this is wisdom being given to him by who? You think it's being given to him by his daddy, his grandfather? It's being given to him by his mother. And look at what his mom says. What, my son? And what? Son of my vows, son of my womb, give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways unto that which destroy kings. And when you keep on reading down, the question is then asked in the 10th verse, who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? Which means this is a very unique entity. And when you read that 11th verse to the 31st, you're not finding it's very rare you're going to find a chick like that. It's very rare. So they talk these things, but in terms of walking them, so it's like, oh, I'm waiting on my Boaz. I'm waiting on my Boaz. Well, Boaz had multiple wives. David had multiple wives. So what are we talking? What are you waiting for? So now we can't even have these discussions in all actuality. So yeah, Corey, it's very difficult to connect with someone who is pursuing or even understands what spirituality is and tapping into our stolen legacy, our cultural values.
Hey, Danny, from a female perspective, how have the men been in this?
It depends. It's kind of up and down. It just depends. More older men, I found for me, more older men are more wiser. They're more open versus younger guys. So, like for example, my child's father, he's a little older than me, so he's more wiser. Once I start studying Yoruba religion and I introduced it to him and explained to him how evil philosophy works, and then I did my ancestry, the African ancestry DNA, and my roots trace right back to West Africa. I'm like, yes, it's meant. When I start studying like how they break it down to these deities, the Orishas, and it's for me.
Yeah.
It's for me. And so he started to read and educate himself more, and for us it worked.
You hit on something that's very important, because that's why I created an empowerment workshop specifically for females, because I tell them that you all have the power to transform the mind of a male and influence him to seek manhood. And you're proving that with what you're saying, because based on the standard that you're setting, he can only do one or two things.
Right.
He can either lead or he can start to elevate.
Right.
If he starts to elevate, he now is becoming the what? Man you need him to become for you and your son.
Right.
So you have that power. And Third World, the reggae group, Third World has a powerful song. They say, brother, you got the power to make a change. Sister, you got the power to rearrange. See, a brother has the power to change himself, his mind, his spirit, his physical. He has the power to penetrate your mind to help transform you, but you have the power to transform the world. Why? Because you're the first teacher of the child. Through you, life is incubated, and you have the ability to transform the world. And so if the guy is not able to help transform your mind, and you transform your mind before him, you got the power to help him elevate, which will then help you elevate and accomplish. So that's powerful. I'm glad you said that.
You got any questions, Terry? Because I got one. Okay. Let's do it. You own it, and I agree with a lot of the topics. I agree with everything you're saying.
And tell me what you don't agree with now. So we can have a real discussion.
Okay. Some of the wording, the verbiage, on the clock. If a woman was like, hey, it's kind of harsh or a bit much. Because when I heard, I was like, ooh, I wish I could say that, but I wish I could do that. But do you take, do you get that a lot? Like, hey man, you chauvinistic or arrogant or any of those. I know I've I've shared your post and people be like, "Why you share? Hey, that's so arrogant. He's so arrogant." So how do you deal with women who say, "Hey, you're you an asshole, maybe"? Because that's how we gonna use it. You're great. You have great standards. Like any man should have standards and morals. I say that. But for the women that I've met in my 40 years of living, if I was to use that language and that tone, I'd be in I think I'd probably be in jail, a lot of fights and cut-ups and all that. So how do you manage to say, all right, this is who I am, I'm standing on these principles, either ride with it, move on?
It's real simple. First off, what my son and what? Son of my vows, son of my womb, give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways unto that which destroy kings. And I really don't think that scripture is talking about women. I think it's just talking about females. So that's number one. Number two, I was raised by a strong mother. I was raised by a strong mother, single family household. Father wasn't there. So my mother put so much hardcore gangster discipline in me, you would have thought that I was raised in a house with a military commander. Okay, so that's number one. My mother taught me the understanding of necessity versus want at an early age. So all of this jaw-jacking that dudes do, trying to cater to females, that's already gone. And my mother taught me that lesson. I wanted a big wheel when I was a child. Everybody wanted a damn big wheel. And I got up that Christmas morning, and I'm like, opening up the paper, I'm like, oh, this is a goddamn hot cycle. This ain't no damn big wheel. And my mother said, you better be appreciative of that, because you ain't need no damn big wheel. You ain't need no hot cycle. So I get out, everybody got a big wheel. Everybody. I'm the only person in the 18 or 1900 block of Ashton in Lakeside that got a goddamn hot cycle. But you know, after riding that hot cycle for about a week or 2 weeks, goddamn hot cycle got some things that the big wheel ain't got. See, I learned to appreciate being different early in my life. I've never been intimidated to talk to females. I always want to talk to the most gorgeous female in school. And so I was never afraid of rejection. As I got older, now being selected for Punani privileges
Great way to say that.
early in my life, I learned to conquer Punani early. If a brother has not conquered Punani in high school or by his early 20s, it's going to be very difficult for him. So he'll be jerked around by a lot of females. With me, that's never happened. And my childhood, it's interesting you ask that question, because my childhood best friend, Carlos Bellion, in 2012, he came to stay with me. And he said, man, I was thinking, he said, man, you done broke up with a lot of cold-blooded chicks. And he said, I used to wonder why you would leave these chicks alone. I said, what did you figure out? He said, I figured the answer. And I said, what is it? He said, you always had your own. I said, you goddamn right. Because some of the chicks that he ended up sleeping with so he could get some food or a place to stay, I would have threw up. If I would have had to roll with that. So what I'm saying to you, Corey, when you learn who you are as a brother and you now understand the essence, you don't carry yourself as a scallywag. And you don't just get with any old chick, period. Especially when you tap in spiritually and culturally. And so those females who, as a matter of fact, I think my second wife, she said my stepdaughter had an issue with me because she said when he comes into the room, he acts like he owns the room. I do own the goddamn room. You understand? Because I understand who I am spiritually, culturally, educationally, economically, socially, and politically. I was never raised to shy away from being able to articulate. And then going to Xavier University, I mean, that's a wrap. And then being in corporate America, so I'm not intimidated. And then most of my friends were not guys, they were females. So I know how to articulate with females. And I know most females are not going to want to have what I give them, which is what my mother used to give me, and I used to hate it, and that was castor oil. I used to hate it. Most people like sugar.
Right.
But now today, guess what I got in my cabinet? Goddamn castor oil.
But I would say this, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the women may have just decided to just walk away from you due to you wanting them to elevate. Because I'm going to tell you something, people love to see reflection in themselves and others.
That's true.
It brings a sense of comfort. So if a female or a group of people dealing with each other that have the same interests, they ain't going nowhere in life, they ain't doing shit, they just trying to do whatever they can to get by, that's a sense of comfort.
That's true.
And then when they meet a man that's more intelligent, you know, has intellect,
Yeah.
can provide balance and structure, and they get with someone like that, then it creates a sense of fear almost, you know, and uncomfort. People don't like to be uncomfortable.
My first wife called it, she said, when I'm around you, I feel inadequate.
On a lot of different levels. Able beings, and that can mean a whole bunch of different things. We have access to a lot of things. We just might not have. Let me say, we have ability. Everyone has a certain level of ability. Okay, whatever that may be. Everyone does not have access. Okay. Now, I say all the time that the catalyst of change is discomfort, because why else would you, right? Now, going from these principles, we're trying to empower our fellow man. We are going to run into a lot of people who didn't have access.
True.
So when you walk into that room with them, when you talk to them, it will be intimidating. It will be uncomfortable. But then that's where I wanted you to put patience on your list.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because without that,
because I asked for believing that.
yeah, without patience, we will shun you away because you don't have the ability. So I'm just going to go find somebody else who has the ability. And what you find, like you said, you were here in Shreveport and it was kind of dismaying. Like, where are these people with ability? Well, the nurture and nature part, we have to combine them both in order to bring a culture forward. But if I go through shifting or sifting with a fine-tooth comb, I'm going to leave a lot of people behind and I'm not going to be able to see what I want to see. So I think it does take a little bit of patience with those people, because some people will want to learn.
No, I agree with
and
that.
some people don't want to learn, but you don't really know that until you actually get in that space.
No, I totally agree with you. You're correct. And I would have a little patience.
But you only gave a year. You gave a year.
Well,
I gave a
You ready going to
Hey, man. Okay, let me ask.
It sounds like, though, Mr. Chris, it sounds like, though, he was burnt out from the get, okay? Because we talked about this first marriage, which he really didn't want to be in the first.
No, first one, that was cool.
You wanted
Second
to
one,
be-
I didn't want to be.
You proposed on this first one, or she proposed
She
on the
proposed.
first? Okay, so he really didn't want to be on the first one, because what you did say, you said, until my creator tells me so.
But I
that's when I
ultimately,
do
but I
it.
ultimately
You
did get on my
agreed.
knees. I did.
You agreed. I'm telling you what you
I
said.
did.
I'm telling you what you said.
I did go through public
There was
service.
quite a bit of burnout going into the second
And
marriage.
you're correct, but here's the thing, and I do agree with you on patience. But let me tell you, and I learned this from my first wife. We were in Canada, and I used to wonder why I would want to damn near choke whether they're female or my partners. I used to want to choke these people because they couldn't get this. I say, damn, why do I get so upset with my partners for not being able to get this spiritual, cultural thing? Because I want them to get their purpose. I want them to get it. And it hit me while I was at the airport. Time. Time. Do you know when you're going to die?
Absolutely not.
Do you know when you're going to die?
I'm sorry.
Don't want to know.
So, if you don't know when you're going to die, guess what you don't have time to do? Waste time. And so although I would have some patience, once you don't want to, like, if we can't get past the first chapter of Miseducation of the Negro, I've logged that into my mental computer. Then you don't want to do a project, an empowerment project. I've logged that into my mental computer.
Right. Not a whole
And so my point is patience to a degree, which I understand what you're saying in terms of this unconditional thing. I do believe that love has conditions.
Whoa.
I do believe that love has conditions. And I'm laying them out because if there's no understanding, I go through this particular list. There are conditions because you're not trying to understand where I'm coming from. You're not really trying to love, from that, because we're talking about action steps. So I don't believe that there is this unconditional thing. I really do not. And with the patience thing, I'll give some degree of time, but if I see that you're not trying to move on that particular level, I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm just going to understand where you're at, and we'll just transition from that standpoint. Because again, I learned in that first marriage, you can't force someone to elevate. And I'm talking about both of my wives are good sisters, beautiful sisters, but where I'm going to impact our people worldwide and what they wanted to do, it wasn't the same. And they were comfortable in the mix. And that was never going to work with me. I needed them to elevate because I know that you and her, if you all elevate, y'all got a certain power that Corey and I will not have. If you elevate from Negro female to black woman to black queen to black goddess, there's a power in you that we don't have. If we elevate from Negro male to black man to black king to God, there's a power that we have that y'all don't have. If we come together now on these principles, add patience in and some other components, and now we have children, guess what we do to the world? We transform the world.
But I will say this, the patience, you have to have a certain level of patience because the patience can turn into inconvenience.
Come on.
And people don't like being inconvenienced. For example, like, okay, you may meet someone who suffers from like abandonment issues and you're trying to work through them, you guys going to therapy and everything, it still don't work, or you may try to teach them something spiritually. You try over and over again, they still don't get it. That's kind of like an inconvenience. It can become an inconvenience. And some people...
And at what time do you cut the umbilical cord? Okay? See, patience. So you coming from a therapist standpoint, but see, you can also get caught up into enabling.
No, that's not what I'm teaching.
So
what I'm saying is that you have every one of us have something to give, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So whether I'm with you for a year, a week, 2 years, 9 years, 1 year, 1 month, we talked about the month, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in this exchange, I'm planting seeds. Now, if I have good seeds, they're good seeds no matter who says they are, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because people can be ignorant of what a value of something is.
Right.
And previously to get on the call, you were talking about the different young ladies who have, after you, risen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? So that was a planted seed that blossomed outside of you. So people come into our lives for reasons and
Yeah.
seasons.
But she wasn't willing to do that while we were
You
married.
don't know what they are until the end.
Oh, no, I agree.
You don't know if it's a reason or a season.
I agree.
Okay.
But she wasn't willing to do that while we were
But
married.
we're talking about love, though, and I think
And I
maybe
still-
you're
and I
talking
still love her.
about-
And I still love her.
Exactly,
But-
because we're talking about love. I think you guys were talking about love in the context of being in the same relationship, but love never fails, whether you're with that person or not. That energy continues to transfer on and grow where it's nurtured. You didn't know how to love when we were little. We talked about that. You didn't know how to love when we were little. But every relationship you've been in, I've been in, each one of us has been in, made us who we are today, which in a sense is better. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Right? So love doesn't fail. It keeps growing.
That's if the person knows what love is. Remember the
What
other
about
person.
you, though?
Oh, well, that's yeah
We're
for
talking.
me.
I am the.
But
beginning
I have
of
to
love.
I have to also speak of it from the standpoint of our people, because a lot of people use that term
Right.
and they don't know what the hell that term means.
Correctly, because I am the beacon of love, and like you were saying, with teaching or nurturing within the home, if I'm taught to love myself, empower myself, your mother did that, empower yourself, then I don't go outside looking for love. I go out complimenting love. Compliments don't, they have to attach to something. They don't stand alone, right? So if I love myself and I do that purely,
What does that
I
look
can
like?
seek love in my environment.
What does that look like? What does loving yourself look like?
Loving yourself. Not holding yourself to any other person's fad or ruler. Really getting an intimate relationship with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Loving yourself for unconditionally. There goes that unconditional word. Loving yourself unconditionally. Like whether this eyebrow is arched up or down, I am still worth something. It's not about my aesthetics. It's not about particularly my education. It's not about what I do for others. It's actually, it can be a feeling. I think love is a person, place, or thing.
If you're eating ding dongs every day and cake every day, would you be loving yourself?
No. Right.
But you got people that will say, I love myself.
We're not talking about the people who are misinformed.
No.
We're talking about.
No, but you got
what
they're
love
using
really
that term,
is.
but they're using that term though.
Right.
And so that's why we got to be very clear as to what that term, like I do case analysis now, and I'm seeing people who profess love, and they're going out and killing females and killing children. I just did a case analysis the other day. Negro male murdered his mother and two sisters the other week. He'll say, I love my mom and my sisters. But you didn't. You've been using the term though.
Right. But did he love himself?
Hell no.
Exactly.
But he'll say he loved himself.
Right. That's it. It's just a false. If you are unable to love yourself, how can you love another person?
Exactly. And so that's why we have to be very clear on what love is as relates to action, and not the pomp and circumstance of saying this. And that's why when I hear females say, oh, I love him, but I'm no longer in love with him. So what does that mean to be out of love?
I think people usually mean they're out of commitment.
They're out of their feelings. Their feelings have changed. Because they're equating love and feelings to being the same thing. And love ain't no feeling. You have children, right? Are there times that your child makes you want to, feel like killing them in the past? At any point that you want to choke it? At any point?
Yeah.
Okay. But but you never got rid of him, right? You never just. No, but you dated other dudes, right?
I have.
So you've said that you love them, right?
In the past.
Okay. But you got rid of their ass, right?
Yeah.
But they made you feel upset, right?
Right.
But you didn't get rid of them. I mean, you got rid of them,
Right.
but you didn't get rid of your child.
No.
Why you didn't get rid? Why did you get rid of them, but not your child? And you use the same term.
The commitment.
Ah. Okay.
Back to what I was talking about when we jumped in here. Love is commitment.
Commitment.
And we have a few minutes left. I'm gonna shout out our sponsors tonight. Get to the money. DeAndre Salon on Facebook and Instagram. Connected Bottles on Connected Bottle Shop on Mansfield Road. Thank you for all that you do. And back to this, Mr. Craig Lee, I appreciate you coming back out, man.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna have to continue this conversation.
That's
It was
fair.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. And we're gonna continue these conversations. We're gonna definitely set up a part 2 for this conversation. Mr. Craig Lee is very insightful, and Miss Danny has a great point of view from her spiritual walk and healing. So tonight we're gonna wrap it up. I enjoyed all you all, and next week we're gonna get our voices to the point that you want them, and we appreciate you hanging in there with us tonight. I read your messages, people, and we're gonna work on our.
He wants you to be perked up.
Yeah.
They want you to be lively.
Mr. Craig, he's been rocking with me about 3 years. He know that this ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, you're gonna get lively,
About
brother.
all this you're gonna get. Therapist, you got anything tonight?
Look at what y'all a good team, man.
Yeah, you guys really
Y'all
are.
a good team. Love never fails.
See, when I started this, they was like, what you doing? What you doing? I've always.
That cat that love, he love, man. He
I
love.
love, man. We
That
gonna
cat
keep
love,
it,
man.
Thank you all for staying with us. D, Shady Will.
What up?
Appreciate you, man.
You already know.
Social goats are always.
Definitely, brother D.
So we're gonna call it a night. See you all next Thursday, 8 p.m. right here.